my name's Dick Broughton and I'm a Randomfish. Hit the subscribe button and let's all be Randomfishes together, shall we? So, I've decided to go back to the MCU. I talked about Avengers Endgame last, when I was talking about the MCU films, because I went and saw it the day it premiered. Not at the midnight screening, but the next day. Because I did not feel like going to the cinema at midnight. I couldn't be bothered. But when Spider-Man Far From Home came out, I didn't jump right away to see the film. Why? Because I watched the trailers and I just didn't feel like it was going to be something that I felt I wanted to see on the big screen. But it's now out on DVD, so why not? I bought it. I decided to stuff it, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to see what it's like. So, first off, obviously, spoilers ahead for talking about this film. Hopefully you guys have seen it. If you haven't, then please do not watch this video. Watch the film first, and then come back and talk to me. I say talk to me. I'm a video. You can't hear I can't hear what you're saying. You can hear what I'm saying, but I can't hear what you're saying. It's the cool thing about talking to a camera. It's nice. Means that my opinions get through and I can only talk. It's nice. So, what's the prevailing plot of this film? Well, okay, it's set, obviously it's still set in New York and everything else, and it's set in Queens, but it's set after the events of what they're calling in this film the blip, i.e. when Thanos snapped and everyone went all dusty. Obviously, in Endgame, everyone got brought back by the Hulk snapping his fingers. And when they did, everyone felt a bit displaced, everyone felt a little freaked out, no one was really sure about what was going on anymore, blah blah blah. It was all very bulk standard stuff to be really happening in that kind of situation. And May, or Aunt May, to give her a proper title, is currently helping out as part of a charity along with Happy and Pepper obviously as well, to help people who have been displaced by what happened or being displaced by the blip. I don't know if I can ever call it the blip anymore. The people that got displaced after they got brought back from the snap, and Spider-Man obviously is there helping out, and May knows that Peter is Spider-Man. Obviously, at the end of Homecoming, we saw that happen when he gets into his room, takes off his mask, and he's all happy and proud, and it's a majestic moment, and she stood behind him and goes, "What the f..." And then it cuts to the credits of Spider-Man Homecoming. In Far From Home, obviously, we see Happy and May flirting a little bit, which is weird. Although, I'll be honest, seeing Jon Favreau flirt on screen is kind of hilarious to me. It just is. Makes me sort of sit there and be like, yeah, this is how a lot of guys are. It's kind of interesting. I say a lot of guys like me. It's how we are when we flirt. We then get, obviously, the setup for the film, which is that a whole bunch of them in the science club are going off on a scientific summer holiday around the area, around Europe, which is kind of cool. And Peter has this plan throughout the whole thing to find a way of buying something really cool, a certain flower, a black Danube or something like that, to give to MJ, the girl that he now lovingly likes, which is interesting. And when they get to France, he's going to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower, he's going to give it to her, and he's going to tell her that he likes her. Hopefully she says she likes him back, and then they will kiss. That's his plan. We also get the triumphant return of Ned, Peter's guy in the chair, who obviously got blipped away with Peter as well. Something I thought was kind of funny about this film, actually, was that the way the cast was set up in a lot of ways, because you still have the characters from from a lot of Homecoming. So you have Peter, you have Ned, you have Flash, you have MJ, you have that teacher who's played by the guy from Freaks and Geeks, those are the sort of the main characters as well. but they all, and May obviously, but they disappeared during the blip. They all disappeared during the blip. I know that the whole thing was that when Thanos snapped his fingers, everything was done at random, but it really does amuse me how much of it is sort of being done, how much of it was done, and sort of how much of it was like, 5 years have passed, and it's, it's nicely acknowledged that there were these kids who were, 12 years old or something, when these guys all got snapped out of existence, and when they got brought back, they're 17. It's weird. There's a brilliant bit where, during a little tribute that they do on the school TV station, or, the school news thing, or whatever it is they're doing, they do like a little loving tribute to some of the Avengers who've passed away. Obviously, Tony Stark died, along with Steve Rogers. I don't quite know how they got the whole Steve Rogers died thing. I don't know what they got told. I don't know what the world got told about Steve Rogers. I very much doubt that Pepper Potts or Falcon or Winter Soldier or whoever stood in front of a microphone and said Steve went back in time and decided to stay with his beloved sweetheart. I doubt that's what actually was said. I assume they got told that Captain America died. I find that hilarious. And obviously Black Widow got put up there as well. Again, not quite sure if that was something that I feel like they could have told people. I mean, there's a part of me that sort of ultimately and darkly kind of assumed that Black Widow would want to remain not quite as in the spotlight as she would have wanted. It might be that she got a lot more involved over the 5 years after the snap, that she was a lot more public-faced. I don't know, but that's something that could be thought of and something that could be thought back on, which is kind of cool. Anyway, they all go on this scientific trip together, and while they're there, they see a water monster rise up out of the depths of this little place that they're in, and Peter has not packed his Spider-Man costume for the trip, because he went, I want to just go on this trip, I want to be a normal kid on this trip, I don't want to be Spider-Man now for the rest of the summer. I'll be Spider-Man when I get home, but right now, no Spider-Man. Of course, what happens, his aunt still packs the fucking suit. She still packs the suit, man. And then and then obviously she ends up having to fight this giant water monster, which is kind of cool. Then we get Mysterio come in as well. This is the second time we see him appear in the film. The first time you see him at the very beginning of the film, with Nick Fury and Maria Hill having a look in a destroyed village in Mexico, which is weird. Weird way to start the film, I have to say, in a lot of ways. But we then get something that's kind of cool. We then get, obviously Peter helps, in a way, tries to help Mysterio sort of destroy this water creature, and eventually he does. And they all go back to the hotel, or motel, or hostel, or wherever it is they are. And Peter and Ned go into the room, and Ned just collapses. He gets shot by something, and he collapses. And who's sat in the chair but Nick Fury, who, and the opening line from Nick Fury to Spider-Man, "You're a difficult man to find, Spider-Man." And I just sat there and went, oh, no. Oh, God. Because part of Fury's whole identity throughout the early parts of the MCU was that he was the guy that knew everything. He was the guy that was the big, epic, the guy that brought the Avengers together. He was that guy, and he was always that guy. I honestly do not think there was any other real way of sort of dealing with it in it, at least not to me. Something I thought that was kind of cool, at least from one perspective and nothing else, Fury is trying to get Spider-Man to be involved in the fight, and Spider-Man's going, basically saying, I don't want to do the whole Spider-Man thing on this trip. I want to be Peter Parker only, I don't want to be Spider-Man. This is his general consensus throughout the film. And to me, that's one of the big halts I find. Because Spider-Man should still want to fight no matter what. And yes, he still does it throughout the film, so yes, he's still doing it, blah, blah, blah. but he feels obligated to do it, not because he wants to do it. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from for me. Spider-Man's mentality is he does it because it's right. Yes, he gets pissed off about stuff, but he does it because it's right. He doesn't do it because he feels obligated to do it. He does it because he feels like he's right. And that's where it comes from. And this Spider-Man doesn't feel like... This version of Peter Parker, at least in this film, doesn't feel like that to me sometimes. It feels more like, yes, I get it. A boy trying to get a girl's attention. I do understand that kind of mentality does burst through a lot of this other stuff, and he is a teenager, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But, at the same time, Peter Parker is someone who has always been in high school. He's always been in college and university, all that sort of thing. He has been that character for a long time, and he still just does it because it's right. He doesn't... for example, in the animated series in '94, he used to drop his dates with MJ, or, not Gwen Stacy, but, other characters like that. He would drop what he was doing with them in a second because of what he thought was right, because he knew he had to do what was right. He had to do it. He didn't feel like he had a responsibility to do it. He felt not that it was an obligation or responsibility. It was because he just knew that it was right. It was right for the sake of being right. Right for the sake of right. And that's where Spider-Man comes from for me. And I honestly just didn't feel like that was really one of the big points for him in this. Also, if they were going to do that story, it could have been done in a way that, I don't know, I kind of would have preferred to have seen Madam Web maybe in that story, or even have him lose his powers at some point. Maybe have that be the story. Not in this film, because this is the second film, and we've already done a second film where he loses his powers and tries to be a normal person, and that was bad enough to watch with Tobey Maguire hearing rain drops are falling on my head. No, not happening again. But in this film, you discover that Mysterio is someone who's trying to save his supposed Earth from these elemental forces. They fight the one that's left, Fire, and during all of this, we also discover that Peter Parker gets given one of the last gifts from Tony Stark to him, which was a pair of sunglasses with an AI in it called Edith, which is kind of interesting. And Peter obviously sits there and goes, I'm a teenager, I shouldn't be trusted with this, I'm going to give it to the one guy who's been slightly nice to me throughout this entire time. I'm going to give it to Quentin Beck. Okay, fine, you know what, he's been acting like a nice guy this entire time. Even if he turns out to be a villain, I kind of figured that was going to happen at some point anyway, because, it's Peter. You kind of expected it to happen at some point. But the interesting thing is that obviously you then discover that Mysterio is a villain. You discover that he used to work for Tony Stark. And I don't know, I guess I would have loved it if he'd been a different type of villain, i.e. with a different backstory. These villains being connected to Stark, the whole thing is just a Stark was a jackass at one point in his life, and therefore I now hate him. It's getting a little old, people. It's getting a little old. The whole Stark was a jackass, or people misunderstood Stark or wanted to take Stark's technology and do horrible things with it. We get it. It's happened. It's happened over the course of 3 Iron Man movies. We didn't need more Stark created villains. Hell, we've had that in the Avengers movie. We had it in Age of Ultron, for crying out loud. We don't need more Stark created villains. We don't. I think what needs to stay now is the Stark legacy and the idea of, more good stuff being done through Pepper, through Stark Industries. Maybe even to have had a Morgan moment between her and Peter, because, let's face it, there's a lot of fan art, a lot of fanfics, a lot of this stuff is happening. To have all this stuff about Morgan and Peter interacting, I would have loved to have seen that as a thing. That would have been genius to me. But, it just didn't happen. But I mean, okay, I didn't go through the entire plot because I don't want to do like a massively long ranting video about the plot. That's just stupid. So, my negative points on this film is mostly to do with... Sadly, it's mostly to do with Mysterio because I feel like he's a step backwards for villains in the MCU. They did so well in the later half of Phase 3. I really feel like they did. And now it just feels like they went to a slightly generic villain for their final film of Phase 3, which is a little bit of a letdown, I gotta say. But what's the good stuff in this? Well, I mean, Tom Holland again is a greatly well done. He's fantastic. He's great in this film. He really is. I will never tire of watching Tom now. I think I lost my appreciation for Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2. Andrew Garfield, I lost any liking of Amazing Spider-Man 2 from the costume. Everyone complained about the multiple villain factions and all of that crap. I just didn't like the costume. I thought the costume was a little too stupid. This film, however, I feel like was done well. I think it was effective. I think it was well executed. I love the fact that, again, I said this at the beginning, but, you know, if you've gotten this far and you're still watching this video but you haven't seen Spider-Man Far From Home, go away and watch Spider-Man Far From Home, please. Obviously, the reveal in the end credits, the two of them that's done, the first one obviously being that Mysterio faked a video and did the whole, you know, Spider-Man is evil, he's actually Peter Parker, you know, and they did the same ending to that as they did to Homecoming with a what the moment. But of course this time it's done with Spider-Man instead of done with May, which is fine. The other one, of course, being that Fury was actually Talos the entire time. One of the things that I loved about that actually was this massive debate that appeared going, how long has Talos been Fury? How long do you reckon it's been since Talos has been Fury? Here's my personal thought on that. Being that Captain Marvel has been out and about and she's been along across the galaxy for ages and she's not done much with it. I reckon at some point after possibly either Age of Ultron or after Winter Soldier, when SHIELD got disbanded and Fury went into hiding, I think at some point he contacted Talos, or Talos contacted him, and Fury went, I need a break. And he went, get on my ship, I'll take over from here. Which would explain why Fury came up in Age of Ultron with still wearing his eye patch, which you see him take off in Winter Soldier and put on shades. Yes, he's wearing it again in Far From Home when he's sat on the bridge of the ship and everything else. That's all fine and dandy, but to me that just made me laugh. It really did. Talos being Fury and his wife being Maria Hill, although I'm confused as to where Maria is now. Where is Maria Hill, dang it? But no, honestly, despite my issues with the villain, I do like this film. I'm just not as... I didn't jump as far or as high for it as I would have done for Endgame. And I think, to end this on, I feel like this film is one that I should have gone to watch in the cinema. Not because I think that it's a fantastic film, but because, honestly, something that I have begun to realise, or something that I should really have always kept in my mind anyway, is that there's a lot of films out there that do deserve to be on the big screen, to be enjoyed on the big screen. And I know that the cinema is an expensive trip to go on. It's not something that you can do every weekend. It's not something you can do every day, blah, 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 for a lot of people. And I do understand that, and I respect that. But to me, I kind of just want to put out, just simply for the record, that honestly, we should go to the cinema more often. We should see things more often. We should watch films more often. Because film is an amazing thing. Animation is an amazing thing. Actors are amazing. These effects are amazing. And honestly, they deserve to be witnessed on a big screen. Yes, we can watch them on our TVs as much as we like, but honestly, nothing beats the silver screen. Never has, never will. But, with that being said, DVDs are a wonderful little thing to help. So, with that being said, I'm simply going to say Randomfish out. Enjoy your week, my friends. And watch Spider-Man Far From Home if you haven't already. Because if you have, and you've watched this all the way through, then it's pretty much spoiled for you. So well done. Randomfish out.